events. In this lecture, we will be discussing hormones of ovaries, testes, pineal gland and few endocrine disorders. So, this is the last section of endocrine system of subject human anatomy and physiology. Subject code is BP201T. We have already discussed major glands and their hormones and their actions in the previous lectures. So, let us discuss gonadal hormones first. So, gonads are which produces gametes. Gonads produces gametes, that is sperms in males and oocytes in females. Female gonads are known as ovaries and these are the paired oval bodies located in the female pelvic cavity. It produces several steroid hormones. So, gonads, that is female gonads, are ovaries and these are the paired oval bodies that is located in the female pelvic cavity and produces hormones estrogen, progesterone, relaxin and inhibin. Male gonads are called as testes. These are oval glands that lie in the scrotum and it mainly secretes male sex hormone, that is testosterone. So, these are the hormones that we will be discussing. Now, who regulates it? We have already discussed that pituitary gland is master gland and hypothalamus is master of master gland. Why do we call it? Because pituitary gland controls the secretion of other glands and hypothalamus releases few hormones that control the secretion of pituitary gland. So, how gonadal this hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis work? So, release of the hormone from the testes and ovaries, they are governed by the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis, hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. So, whenever there is the decrease in the level of testosterone or female sex hormones estrogen, so that will result in the stimulates the hypothalamic hormone, that is GnRH, gonadotropin release hormone. So, whenever there is a fall in the hormones in the blood, male and female hormone, it will result in the stimulation of gonadotropin release hormone from the hypothalamus. This gonadotropin release hormone will go to the pituitary gland and here it will stimulate gonadotropes to form luteinizing hormone and FSH, LH and FSH, and this LH and FSH will secreted into the blood and they will go to the ovaries and testes, they will go to the gonads. So, level of testosterone and estrogen falls, it will result in the release of gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus and GnRH stimulates the secretion of FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary into the blood circulation and then this testosterone and the estrogen and progesterone will produce their actions. So, what are their actions? So, first is ovarian hormones, that is estrogen, progesterone, relaxin and inhibin. So, estrogen, it stimulates the growth and development, maintenance of female reproductive structures. It also stimulates development of secondary sex characteristics. It also stimulates protein synthesis. It also helps in the formation of ovarian follicles, and progesterone, it prepares the endometrium for implantation. It maintains the pregnancy. It prepares the mammary glands for milk synthesis. So, these are the majorly estrogen and progesterone are the major female sex hormones. Apart from this, relaxin relaxes the cervix, means it dilates the uterine cervix so that child delivery can be facilitate. So, relaxin helps to dilate uterine cervix to facilitate delivery. Inhibin inhibits the secretion of FSH from anterior pituitary. Secretion of FSH from anterior pituitary. Testicular hormones. So, male gonad testes, as we have told you earlier, are oval glands that lie in the scrotum. Testes secretes mainly testosterone, which is major male sex hormone. Its actions are, it stimulates descent of testes before birth, that is, it places the testes at its place, regulates the production of sperm, causes the spermatogenesis. It stimulates the development and maintenance of male secondary sex characteristics, such as it causes the hair growth, beard growth, deepening of the voice in the males. Inhibin inhibits the secretion of FSH from anterior pituitary. So, these are the testicular hormones. Next gland is pineal gland. So, pineal gland, it is a small gland located medially between the two cerebral hemisphere and is attached to the rear of the third ventricle by a small pineal sac. So, in this diagram we can see that this is the small, very small pineal gland which is present in between the two cerebral hemisphere and below posterior to the third ventricle, and it is attached by a small sac. So, this is the small gland. So, it is tiny brown structure, typically 5 to 8 millimeter long, that weighs around 150 milligram. So, how small it is? Just 150 milligram of brown color structure is present in our brain, but it plays very important role and it is highly vascularized, that is blood supply. It is found outside of our blood brain barrier. It consists of the secretory cells that we call as pinealocytes. And neuroglia. So, pineal gland is a small gland which is present in the two cerebral hemispheres, and it is a very tiny gland present outside the blood brain barrier. Now, what is the function? What is the importance of this gland? So, pinealocytes, they synthesize and secrete chronobiotic hormone melatonin. Pinealocytes synthesize and secrete hormone melatonin, and melatonin is chronobiotic. What does mean? That is, it sets our body biological clock, circadian rhythm. Body biological clock is known as circadian rhythm. So, it regulates sleep awakening cycle, that is, during the sleep plasma level of melatonin increases and then declines to a low level again before awakening. So, it regulates body biological clock. It decides when to sleep, when to awake. So, when during sleep plasma level of melatonin increases and before awakening it decreases. Apart from this, it is also powerful antioxidant, that is, it quenches free radicals. It is powerful antioxidant, so it quenches free radicals. So, melatonin is released from the pinealocytes of the pineal gland. How they are biosynthesized? Pinealocytes take up the essential amino acid tryptophan, and tryptophan is then enzymatically converted into the neurotransmitter serotonin, and then serotonin forms melatonin, that is serotonin is converted into melatonin. So, here we can see that tryptophan is taken up and it is converted into the 5-hydroxytryptophan, which ultimately converts in the serotonin neurotransmitter. Serotonin by conversion into N-acetyl serotonin forms the melatonin, which controls the circadian rhythm of our body. So, melatonin is synthesized in the pinealocytes of the pineal gland, small gland present in the outside of the blood brain barrier. Next gland is thymus. Thymus is a small, delicate, bilobed gland. It is located behind the sternum, behind the breastbone, behind the sternum. It resides in the mediastinum. Mediastinum is the space, here we can see this is mediastinum, this is mediastinum, that is space present between the lungs and above the heart. So, this is this and this is the thymus gland. Thymus gland is present behind the sternum, posterior to our breastbone, and resides in the sternum, rests on the superior portion, this is heart, superior portion of the heart. One thing with age, thymus is larger in size when during the childhood in the infants, and with age thymus size decreases, and in the older age it almost remains as a fat. So, thymus is a mainly lymphoid organ, but it has both immune as well as endocrine function. It produces hormones that are essential to normal immune function. Hormones are thymosin, thymulin, thymopoietin. So, remember this, that it is a primarily lymphoid organ, but it has both immune as well as endocrine function. So, it produces hormones thymosin, thymulin and thymopoietin. Now, what are the role of thymic hormone? So, thymic hormones are essential to normal, they are essential to normal immune function because they facilitate development and maturation of T cells. T cells are their named are derived from thymus only. These are T cells are known as thymus derived lymphocytes. So, thymic hormones, thymus, what is the importance of thymus? It facilitates development and maturation of T cells in the thymic follicles. So, what does it do exactly? Basically, it gives the training to the white blood cells, so that white blood cells can recognize the foreign cells and they can differentiate among the foreign cell and body's own cells. So, it trains the white blood cells to recognize the foreign cells and differentiate them from the body cells. Myosin also assists in the development of B cells. So, that B cells will release plasma cells and they will produce antibodies. Antibodies fight against the antigens. So, these hormones are used therapeutically to treat many infections, malignancies and certain autoimmune diseases. So, thymosin hormone, they play also very important role, but with age their size decreases, their amount also decreases in the blood, but they mainly the thymus is involved is the immune. It has lymphoid organ, play both role immune as well as endocrine functions. Now, we will discuss one by one. Last in this is endocrine disorders. Pituitary gland disorders, because of the overproduction of the pituitary hormones or the underproduction of the pituitary hormones. Excessive or less secretion of hormones both results in the endocrine disorders, because appropriate optimum amount of hormone should be present in the blood, and these hormones play very important role in the regulation, in the homeostasis. And so, whenever there will be, either there will be overproduction or there will be underproduction of any of the hormone, will result in the disorders. So, first overproduction of the pituitary hormones. So, acromegaly and gigantism, it occur because of the excess of growth hormone. Cushing syndrome occur because of the excess of ACTH, that is adenocorticotropic hormone. Galactorrhea, it occurs because of the excess of prolactin hormone, because you all know prolactin is involved in the secretion of the milk. So, in males, secretion of breast milk by men or by the woman when not pregnant, excess of prolactin results in galactorrhea. And excess of prolactin will also result in infertility. So, these were the overproduction of pituitary hormones disorder, and because of the underproduction it causes disorders like central diabetes insipidus, which is because of the decrease in the level of the vasopressin hormone, that is antidiuretic hormone. This we have already discussed. Hypopituitarism, that is because of the reduce in the number of the various pituitary hormones. So, we will discuss one by one in detail. So, pituitary gland disorders, pituitary dwarfism, it occur because of the hyposecretion of human growth hormone during the growth years. So, it slows the bone growth and the epiphyseal plate closes before the normal height is reached. So, because here we can see one short person that is suffering from the dwarfism, one giant person suffering from the gigantism, one with the very tall person, gigantism. So, whenever there is less secretion of growth hormone, then it results in the dwarfism. When there is hyper secretion of the growth hormone, it results, but it occurs during the growth years, because at that time epiphyseal plate is open, it has not closed. So, because normal height is not achieved yet. So, if during that years, during the growth year, if there is less secretion of human growth hormone, there will be dwarfism, and when there is high secretion of the growth hormone during the childhood, during the growth years, it will result abnormal increase in the length of the long bone, and the person grows to be very tall in gigantism, like we have seen the example of Ali. So, acromegaly, so hyper secretion of human growth hormone during adulthood, when the epiphyseal plate has already been closed. जब epiphyseal plate are already closed, and then if then hyper secretion of human growth occur during the adult, that results in the acromegaly. And during adulthood, because epiphyseal plate is closed, so further lengthening of the bone is not possible. So, what will be the symptoms? Symptoms will be bones of hand and feet, cheeks and jaw, they will thick, and skin will also thickens, tissue enlarges, coarse and thick skin, and it will develop furrows, like this. So, thick skin, thick bones, hand and feet, cheek bones will be broad and thick, jaw will be broad and thick, and other tissues enlarges, and skin will be thick and it will develop furrows. So, this is the acromegaly that occur because of the hyper secretion of human growth hormone during the adulthood. Next is the diabetes insipidus. It occur because of the defect in antidiuretic hormone receptors or inability to secrete antidiuretic hormone. So, diabetes insipidus basically it occurs because of the reduce in the vasopressin action, that is antidiuretic action. So, vasopressin is antidiuretic hormone, if body is not able to respond to ADH receptors, or it is not able to secrete sufficient ADH. From where does ADH is secreted? From the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary secretes two hormones, oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. So, whenever there is defect in the antidiuretic hormone receptors or inability excuse me, to secrete antidiuretic hormone, it will result in the diabetes insipidus. It is of two types, neurogenic diabetes insipidus and nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. In neurogenic diabetes insipidus, there will be hyposecretion of the ADH, mainly caused by the brain tumor or head trauma that damages the posterior pituitary or hypothalamus, because posterior pituitary hormones are under the control of hypothalamus. Nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, when the kidney do not respond, because a site of action of the ADH is kidney, and when the kidneys do not respond to ADH, then it is nephro, means kidney, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, and it quite possible that the ADH receptors at the kidneys are non-functional, that is, they are not responding to the ADH. So, what are the secretion? Because as the name shows, antidiuretic hormone means antidiuretic hormone increases the secretion of urine, but if there is deficiency of ADH, reverse will occur. So, antidiuretic hormone decreases the secretion of urine, and in the absence of ADH, there will be excretion of large volume of the urine, resulting in dehydration and the thirst. So, bedwetting is quite common in the children suffering from diabetes insipidus. Adrenal gland disorders like Addison disease, we have already discussed in the adrenal gland. Adrenal insufficiency because of the hyposecretion of the glucocorticoid and aldosterone causes Addison disease, which is an autoimmune disorder in which antibodies causes adrenal cortex destruction or block the binding of ACTH to its receptors. With few symptoms we have already discussed. Cushing syndrome, that is hypersecretion of the cortisol, that I have already told. Hypersecretion hoga, then there will be increased metabolism of the glucose, breakdown of the proteins. So, there will be the weight gain, fat deposition in the middle section, which causes the moon face as shown, and the hanging abdomen, development of the stretch marks, buffalo hump, this is buffalo hump, hanging stomach, moon face, these are the specific symptoms and characteristics of the Cushing syndrome, when there is the more secretion of the cortisol by the adrenal cortex, and there will be the thinning of the skin. Pheochromocytoma, we have discussed, that is the tumor of chromaffin cells, excess secretion of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and excess of the sympathetic nervous system responses, that is fight or flight response. So, this was all about endocrine system, in which we have discussed different type of endocrine glands, what are the classification of the hormones and how they produce their action, their mechanism of action, what are the major hormones that are secreted from the major glands, and these are the references for further studies. Thank you.